Begin here. When I first pulled up the snack of research for today, I saw the title, and I had a bit of a physical reaction. I think I actually recoiled.
Oh, really? What was it about the title that triggered that?
Well, it was the central question on the table. The big, bold headline asking, do our thoughts really create our reality? And immediately, my brain just, it went to vision boards, people chanting affirmations in the mirror.
Sure.
Or that whole idea that if I just think hard enough about a Ferrari, one is going to magically appear in my driveway.
Yeah.
It felt kind of radioactive.
It is a loaded question, isn't it? It usually drags us straight into those conversations about manifestation or, magical thinking where a lot of people just check out.
Exactly. And I know our listeners, they come here for data, for strategy, for actionable insights, not for woo. So I was ready to just toss this aside. But, and this is a big but, I started reading. And I realized this material, it isn't about magic at all. It's surprisingly mechanical.
That is the pivot point. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. The sources we're looking at, which are this fascinating combination of behavioral psychology and physiological studies, they actually tackle this question head on. And the answer they give isn't, yes, you are a wizard.
Right. It's much more nuanced. It's essentially, no, thoughts don't create reality directly, but also, yeah, they kind of do in a very specific biological way.
It's all about the mechanism. If we look at the core thesis right at the start, it sets the stage perfectly. It says, thoughts do not magically manifest events on their own. So let's be really clear. You cannot sit on your couch, think, I am a millionaire, and then wait for the banking app to update.
Right.
It's just not how physics works.
Which is a real bummer because I've been trying that for years and it hasn't paid off yet.
But the text pivots immediately. It argues that thoughts shape how reality unfolds through us. It's not about commanding the universe like a god. It's about how the instrument you interacts with the data around you.
So it's arguing that reality isn't something we just passively receive.
Nor is it something we command. It's co-created through interaction.
Co-created through interaction. I circled that phrase like 3 times in my notes. It sounds active. It sounds engineered. So let's unpack this machinery. The source material breaks this down into, 3 or 4 distinct gears that turn inside us. And the first one, which I think is the foundation, is what they call orientation.
This is the perfect place to start because orientation is the bridge between a mental thought, which is intangible, and the physical world. The text argues that what thoughts reliably create is not the object of your desire, but your orientation toward the environment.
It's like a filter, right? I mean, we are all bombarded with millions of bits of data every single second. We can't possibly process all of it.
Precisely. You have a system in your brain, the reticular activating system, or RAS.
Right.
It's literally designed to filter out 99% of reality so you don't go insane.
So your dominant thoughts tell that filter what to let through.
Exactly. Your thoughts determine what we notice, what we ignore, and, this is the critical part, what we interpret as a threat versus an opportunity.
The text had a great analogy about a trajectory here. It said thoughts don't magically change the road you're on. The potholes are still there. The curves are still there.
But your orientation changes your ability to see the road.
Okay, think about the implications of that for a second. If my internal narrative is all about scarcity or fear, my orientation is set to what? Stand for threats.
That's your mission. You could have a golden opportunity sitting right on your desk, but if your brain is scanning for threats, you will physically not see it. It just gets filtered out as irrelevant noise because it doesn't match your search criteria.
It's like when you decide you want to buy a specific model of car, and then suddenly you see that car everywhere.
It's the red car effect, yeah.
They didn't just appear out of thin air. They were always there, but now my filter is set to notice.
That's the classic example. But let's apply that to something with high stakes, like a salary negotiation. Let's say you're walking in. If your dominant thought is, I'm lucky to even have this job, or they probably want to fire me, what is your orientation?
My orientation is pure defense. I'm just protecting myself.
Correct. So you walk in, the boss frowns while reading a totally unrelated email on their phone. What do you see?
I see confirmation that he hates me. I see a threat. I don't see a guy reading spam. I see a guy who is angry at me.
And you see a threat. You ignore that he nodded when you mentioned your sales figures. You ignore the open body language later on. You fixate on that frown because that is what you are oriented to find.
And that changes how I behave. I probably clam up. I don't ask for the number I actually wanted. I might even apologize for things I didn't even do.
And because you don't ask, you don't get the raise. You leave the meeting thinking, see, I knew they wouldn't give it to me. You created that reality, not with magic, but because your orientation curated the evidence to support your fear, and then your behavior followed suit.
The text calls this the filter effect. It determines the data we let in, and that makes so much sense. We aren't bending the universe, we're just adjusting the lens.
It creates a self-reinforcing loop. And this is where most people stop. They think, okay, positive thinking means I just need to wear rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
But this deep dive goes much further. We need to talk about the second gear. We have to move from psychology into physiology.
Yes. System states. This was the real meat of it for me, because up until this point, it still feels a little bit like mindset or attitude. But the text asks a hard question. How does a simple, intangible thought translate into a physical outcome?
And the answer isn't in the clouds. It's in your nervous system.
Yeah, the source has this line that just stopped me in my tracks. It is not the thought alone. It is the system state the thought produces.
That distinction is absolutely vital. A thought is just a packet of information.
Mm.
But that information acts as a signal to your body's hardware. The text explains that belief affects reality by either stabilizing or destabilizing the nervous system.
And we've all felt this, but I want to get granular here. The text contrasts a regulated system with a dysregulated system. And it emphasizes this isn't just about feeling calm versus feeling stressed. It's about performance.
It is a performance enhancer, absolutely. The source lists 4 specific behavioral advantages of a regulated system. These are things that physically happen better when your nervous system isn't in fight or flight.
Okay, let's run through them. I think everyone listening will recognize these. The first one is timing.
Right. Timing. When you're regulated, your perception of time is more accurate. You can sense the rhythm of a conversation, of a project. When you're dysregulated, panicked, rushing time distorts. You interrupt people.
You swing at the ball too early.
You send the email before proofreading it because you feel this false sense of urgency.
That is huge. Okay, the second one is context.
Reading context. This goes right back to our orientation discussion. A regulated system can read the room. It notices nuance. It can distinguish between a no and a not yet.
Whereas a dysregulated system is just binary. Everything is safe or unsafe, friend or enemy. It loses all that nuance.
It flattens reality into black and white.
Okay, the third one is my favorite and probably the most painful one. Recovery.
Recovers faster from mistakes. This is the superpower of a regulated state. If I'm in a good headspace, a regulated state, and I stumble during a presentation, what happens?
You probably just chuckle, correct yourself, and keep going. It barely even registers.
Exactly. I go, whoops, lost my train of thought. The audience might laugh, we move on. But if I'm dysregulated, if I'm coming from a place of, I'm a fraud, I'm going to fail, I don't belong here.
Oh, that stumble is catastrophic. Your heart rate spikes, you start sweating, you can't find your words. The mistake becomes the main event.
And the reality of that presentation spirals downward.
Yeah.
That's the mechanism. The thought, I'm a fraud,
Yeah.
created a dysregulated state, which made recovery impossible, which then ruined the speech. Cause and effect.
And the fourth one was sustained effort, which just makes sense. It takes a lot of energy to be freaked out all the time.
It burns fuel. Dysregulation is metabolically expensive.
Yeah.
If you are constantly scanning for threats, you burn out. Regulation lets you run the marathon.
So let's flip the coin. We talked about the dysregulated system, but the text uses some pretty harsh, specific language about what happens then. It says a dysregulated system abandons paths prematurely.
That one hit home for me too. Think about it. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. It feels like a physical threat in the body. If your system can't handle that discomfort, you will look for the quickest exit.
You'll quit the project.
Or break up the relationship or sell the stock just to make the feeling stop.
So you're not quitting because it's the right strategic move. You're quitting to regulate your nervous system. You just want the anxiety to go away.
Exactly. And then you look back and say, well, that venture failed. But did it fail? Or did you abandon it because your internal state couldn't hold the tension of the unknown?
Man, abandoning paths prematurely. That is the definition of self-sabotage.
The source summarizes this whole section with a really bold statement. It says, this is why belief matters. Not because the universe obeys thoughts, but because bodies and decisions do.
I love that line. We aren't trying to get the galaxy to align for us. We're trying to get our own bodies to stop freaking out so we can make one rational decision.
It creates a causal link that's purely mechanical. If your thought creates a dysregulated state, you will physically function at a lower level of competence. You'll fumble your words, miss social cues, rush the close. The outcome, the reality, will be negative. But it wasn't magic. It was biological self-sabotage driven by that initial thought.
Okay, so we've got orientation, which is the filter, and we've got system states, the engine. But we don't live in a vacuum. We live around other people, and they are messy variables. The text has a whole section on coherence and how this internal machinery starts to affect everyone around us.
This is where the rubber meets the road socially. The concept is coherence. The text explains that when your thoughts are coherent, your actions align. You say what you mean, your body language matches your words.
Your tone matches your intent. And when thoughts are fragmented, meaning I'm saying I'm confident, but I'm thinking, please don't hurt me, the actions conflict.
And humans are lie detectors. We have mirror neurons. We are evolved to pick up on these microsignals. We can feel when someone is fragmented.
It's that uncanny valley feeling you get with a salesperson who is trying way too hard, or a partner who says, I'm fine, when they're clearly not.
Exactly. And the source gives us a specific list of these relational ripple effects. It says, confidence invites trust. Suspicion invites defensiveness.
Okay, let's pause on that one. Suspicion invites defensiveness.
Yeah.
Because that is a perfect example of thoughts creating reality in real time. Walk me through that.
Okay. Let's say you and I are negotiating a contract, and I have a thought pattern that says, everyone is out to screw me. That's my orientation. So I come into the room, I'm dysregulated, tight, watching you like a hawk. My questions aren't open questions. They're aggressive. Why is this clause here? What are you trying to hide?
And how do I respond to that? Even if I'm totally honest, I'm going to get defensive. I'll cross my arms. I'll give you shorter answers. I'll hesitate because I feel attacked.
And the moment you cross your arms and hesitate, my brain goes, aha, look, he's hiding something. I knew it.
You literally solicited the exact behavior you were afraid of.
I manufactured it. My suspicion made you defensive, which then confirmed my suspicion. We just co-created a reality where that deal falls apart.
It's a loop. The text also mentions self-belief allows risk to be inhabited, whereas self-doubt fragments execution.
Inhabited is such a beautiful word choice there. If you believe you can handle the outcome, you inhabit the risk. You stand in the pocket. You're present. If you doubt yourself, you are physically there, but mentally you're already looking for the exit. That is fragmented execution.
And people can feel when you aren't fully inhabiting your position.
Immediately. And they lose confidence in you. If you don't believe you should be leading the team won't believe it either. Not because they can read your mind, but because they can read your fragmented signals.
So over time, these things compound. And if you do this every day for 10 years, it starts to look like thoughts creating reality.
But the text corrects us. It says what is really happening is consistent orientation producing consistent outcomes.
It's the law of large numbers applied to behavior.
It is. If you're consistently oriented toward opportunity and your nervous system is consistently regulated, you will, statistically, stumble upon more luck than someone who is oriented toward threat and is consistently dysregulated.
It's statistical probability shifted by behavior.
Precisely.
Now, before we get too carried away, I want to ground this. Because there's a real trap here. We see it all over social media. Toxic positivity. The idea that if something bad happens to you, it must be your fault because you manifested it. The text has a very specific warning section about this.
This is so essential. We have to be responsible with this information.
And the text says clearly, this does not mean positive thinking guarantees success. And it explicitly rejects the idea that negative thoughts cause bad external events. So if I walk out to my car and I have a flat tire, it's not because I had a low vibration this morning.
No. It's because there was a nail in the road.
Thank you. I think a lot of people need to hear that.
The text reminds us that external forces, chance, other people, and systems matter. We are participating in reality, not writing the code for it.
It also says, and this is so important, that people are not responsible for everything that happens to them. It rejects that victim-blaming narrative that often creeps into self-help.
Which is a very harmful narrative. Oh, you got sick. You must have had some unresolved anger. No. The source is firm on this. Thoughts do not override reality. They interact with it.
So if we strip away the magic, what's the accurate formula? If it's not thought equals reality, what is it?
The text proposes a loop. It goes, thoughts create experience. Experience shapes behavior. And behavior influences results.
Okay, let's trace that. My thought, let's say I can figure this out, creates my internal experience. I feel curious, maybe a little regulated adrenaline.
Right. And that experience then shapes your behavior. You start asking questions, you try a solution, you persist when it fails the first time.
And that behavior influences the result. I eventually solve the problem.
Exactly. But notice that word influences. It does not say guarantees. You could do everything right and still fail because the problem is unsolvable.
Hmm.
But your probability of success went up drastically compared to the person whose thought was, this is impossible, and who therefore never even tried.
This leads to the concept of navigability. I really like this term. The text argues that when belief is coherent and flexible, reality becomes more navigable.
Navigable. It completely shifts the goalposts.
Hmm.
We aren't trying to make reality perfect. We are trying to make it navigable. We just want a map that works.
The text uses that analogy of a captain at sea.
Yes, think about a captain. He doesn't command the ocean. He can't think the waves away. He can't manifest a calm sea.
Yeah.
But his understanding of the ocean, his confidence in his crew, his ability to read the weather, that determines whether the ship makes it to port.
And a dysregulated captain, a captain in a panic, is a disaster.
A dysregulated captain might steer directly into the storm because he's not looking at the radar. He's looking at his own fear. Or he might abandon ship when he didn't need to. He makes the reality unnavigable.
The text highlights that thoughts have the most power under three conditions: when they reduce internal conflict, when they support coherent action, and when they allow for learning and revision.
Allow for learning and revision. That's the flexibility piece. If my thought is rigid, like I am the smartest person in the room, and then I make a mistake, what happens?
You have a crisis. You have to deny the reality of the mistake to protect that rigid belief.
Exactly. You blame someone else. You double down. You disconnect from reality.
Right.
But if your thought is, I am a capable learner, then a mistake is just data. You revise and keep going. That is a navigable reality.
And on the flip side, the text says thoughts lose power when they deny reality, demand certainty, or bypass responsibility.
Demand certainty is the killer. If you need 100% certainty before you act, you will never act. A dysregulated system craves certainty. It wants a guarantee. A regulated system can tolerate ambiguity. It can say, I don't know exactly what will happen, but I trust myself to handle it.
That's a massive difference. One is paralyzing, and the other is mobilizing.
It is.
So, to bring this full circle, we started with that radioactive question. Do thoughts create reality?
And the conclusion is, they don't command it,
Yeah.
they participate in it.
It's a partnership.
It is. The text ends with this beautiful summary. When thoughts align with perception, action, and feedback, reality tends to respond more favorably, not magically, but practically.
Practically. That's the key word. We're looking for practical mechanics to improve our lives. It turns out managing your head game isn't about magic. It's about making sure the driver of the car you is awake, alert, and actually looking at the road.
And ensuring that the driver isn't pressing the brake and the gas at the same time, that's coherence.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It means we can stop trying to force the universe to give us things by wishing really hard. We can stop beating ourselves up if we have a negative thought, thinking we just cursed our future.
It puts the control back where it actually belongs, not over the external events, but over the internal mechanism that meets those events. It transforms mindset from a fluffy buzzword into a mechanical lever you can actually pull.
I think that's a much more empowering place to be. It's actionable.
Completely. You can work on your regulation. You can work on your orientation. You can't really work on manifesting a Ferrari.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a challenge. We talked about how thoughts act as a navigation system.
Right. And if we take that seriously, it raises a really important question for everyone listening. The text mentions revision as a key strength. So ask yourself,
Yeah.
when was the last time you checked if your internal map actually matches the terrain you are walking on?
Oh, that's good. The map versus the terrain.
Are your current beliefs helping you navigate the complex reality you are actually in? Or are your beliefs just demanding that the road look different than it is? Because if you are constantly crashing, if you're constantly frustrated, it might not be the road's fault. It might be that you're navigating off an old map.
Are you navigating or are you demanding? That is a huge difference.
It changes everything.
Well, on that note, we are going to let you get back to your reality, hopefully with a slightly more regulated system and a cleaner windshield. Thanks for diving in with us.
Safe travel.